Shan joins me now. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Things are moving quite quickly now. What did you make of the testimony today? I mean, if you've been following this case pretty closely, this is what Mr. Crone has said before, isn't it?
Absolutely, but here we had an unequivocal statement, in my view, that James Murdoch, given the evidence of Tom Crone, knew about the email involving Neville Thurgood. So he knew that it was more than one reporter that was involved in the alleged phone hacking, and that not only did he know about it, but he didn't seem to act on it. And obviously there's a contradiction in the evidence, and I think the next step is going to be for the committee to recall James Murdoch to clarify exactly what he said last time and answer what Tom Crone has said.
This is particularly significant because the Murdoch's defence, if you like, the whole way through, has been that they firmly believed this to be simply one rogue reporter, and it was not something that was endemic across News Corp, across the news of the world. Now we know that's not the case. The fact that James Murdoch really has to stick by his word. What will he do if he is recalled? Well,
I think, as you said, he'll stick by his word. I think what he will say is that he cannot recall that Tom Crone drew his attention to this email, and then even if he did, perhaps he didn't really explain the significance of the email. I think the other interesting point is, I think what the witnesses said today is there wasn't really any investigation by external lawyers into what had happened, and obviously one of the bedrocks of the Murdoch's defence in this action is they got an outside law firm, Harbottle & Lewis, and also Burton Copeland, to look at the internal documents to see whether there had been any widespread hacking. So I think he's going to have to answer questions on that as well.
Does this come down to a he said, she said type scenario, or do you think that there will be more of a paper trail? Is there going to be some firm evidence that is going to be able to point to the fact that James Murdoch did know about this?
No, I don't think there will be a paper trail. I think it will be down to what Tom Crone said on the one hand and Colin Myler, and what James Murdoch says on the other. So I don't think we'll actually get to the truth of it.
Now, even if we don't get to the truth of it, this doesn't look particularly good for James Murdoch, and of course shareholders, investors, they don't necessarily need a smoking gun to decide that they're not very happy. Do you think that this could have implications for James Murdoch and his standing?
I actually don't think that that part of Crone's testimony is going to have any implications for James Murdoch. I think what was more worrying was what Tom Crone admitted about how certain of the lawyers who are involved in this phone hacking case on behalf of claimants have been more recently investigated, and dossiers have been done. Now, Tom Crone admitted that he had seen dossiers on some lawyers. He admitted that it was a freelance journalist that was engaged to do it, but he didn't say who at News International who had engaged that freelance journalist to put together the dossiers.
Now, what was the point of these dossiers? Did we get to that?
No, we didn't, and it's unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen the answer to that question, but one does have to ask, why would you get a dossier on a lawyer who is acting on behalf of one of these victims? So I think those are questions that James Murdoch will have to answer.
There are politicians in the past, of course, who have claimed something very similar happened to them, that when they spoke out against News Corp, I'm thinking of Chris Bryant in particular, then News Corp said that the News of the World would have a dossier which they then revealed things about his personal life. The implications that they were still doing it at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, really flies in the face of everything that someone like Rebecca Brooks has said about the fact that they were really coming clean by that stage.
I think there lies the problem. I think it's all well and good to say this has been investigated, it's in the past, we've learned our lessons, we've moved on. But if it's been happening more recently, I think it really does beg some serious questions.
What's the next key issue, do you think, to come up?
Well, I think the key issue is who is going to be recalled. Will it just be James Murdoch? Will it be Murdoch Senior? Will it be Les Hinton? Because I think questions have been asked of the evidence that they have given as well. So the scope of the evidence and who is going to give evidence is going to be the next question. And then I think, is James Murdoch going to stick to the story he gave last time, or is he going to have to expand on that and give more detail, or will he change his story? I suspect he'll stick to exactly what he said last time, and there'll just be a direct conflict on the evidence.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. Do come and talk to us again. I'm sure the story has got a lot further to go.